Hello guys, and welcome to another Warcraft 3 video. My name is Fallen Messiah. If you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back. I make gaming videos with special focus on Warcraft and Diablo games, and in this video I will be ranking every single hero in Warcraft 3 and put them all into a tier list. I know this is something that has been done before, but this is a tier list in my opinion, as someone who has played the game for over 20 years. However, I will try to be as objective as I possibly can. Tierlist has a special focus on 1 versus 1 melee. Some of these heroes actually are a little bit better in team games, especially massive 4 versus 4 games, etc. But on this tier list, we are focusing on 1 versus 1 especially. I will be going over every single hero, analyzing where they fall into meta, analyzing their spells, so it's going to be a bit of a longer video, so please bear with me. However, I will try to keep this going as fast as I can, and to be as concise as possible. I know the tier list of this nature has been done already, that's fine. The main idea behind this video is just to foster discussion and conversation about this topic. So anyway, let's just get straight to it. Okay, so in no particular order, let's start with the Alchemist. Alchemist is a pretty strong choice, but like most tavern heroes, he is quite situational. Heal Spray is really good if you have a lot of damaged units. Chemical Rage can be extremely powerful, and just overall, he is a very solid choice, but mainly in a supporting role. Transmute is an extremely powerful spell that can definitely help win you a game if you reach that point, however. And finally, Acid Bomb is used quite a lot in Undead vs Orc matchup, is often used as a third hero to counter the mass air from Orc players, and he excels in that role. Also, even though he's a melee hero, he has a ranged auto attack where he can damage air units, which makes him unique in that regard. Overall, I will put Alchemist in a strong A tier, definitely one of the strongest air tier units in the game, but I don't think he is deserving of an S tier himself. Moving on into Beastmaster. Beastmaster, unfortunately, is just not very good. He is a summon hero and as such can be incredibly powerful early game to apply pressure on your opponent once you get him immediately into tier 2 as a second hero. However, the longer Beastmaster stays active, the more he falls off, because then hard counter to summoned units, especially this spell, becomes readily available. He is a great pressure hero, but he falls off very sharply, and as such I'm gonna put him into C tier. Stampede is very powerful, but you will rarely ever see Beastmaster level 6 in normal play, and also it's an interruptible channeling spell, which as a result can be punished if attempted. I'm an Orc player, so I will try to be as unbiased as possible. I think that Blademaster has long the way supreme as one of the strongest heroes in the game in general, although over the years he has received certain nerfs that, in my opinion, kinda devalued the Blademaster play a lot. Blademaster is very strong auto attacker, the best in the game. If you reach level 3 crit with the right items, he can be almost unstoppable. He can crit into 200s, 300s, absolutely destroying enemy heroes. The problem is with Blademaster is that he is very item dependent. So if you're unlucky and you're not getting the damage items that he needs, then he is a lot weaker than what his potential could possibly be. His abilities are still great. Windwalk, amazing for scouting, for harassing. Mirror Image with the buff, with the option of them attacking, is now very good. With the decreased mana cost as well, makes it a lot more usable than before. Keep in mind that Mirror Image used to have, I believe, 125 mana, which was a lot, and nobody ever used Mirror Image. Now it's actually usable. It's a good spell to break off CC, it's a good spell to scout, to harass as well. Critical Strike, the best auto attack damage in the game, bar none. It's great if you're able to scale it with good items. And finally, Bladestorm has also received a buff as well. To be honest, I'm not sure where to put Blademaster. The problem with Blademaster is that he is so reliant on items, but if you're lucky and you get good ones, he can definitely serve you late game as well. Also, he is always a starter hero. He does not really offer a lot in terms of support. You will never pick him second or third. You either start with the Blademaster or you don't play him at all. So I'm going to actually put him so far in the S tier, but I might change my mind later depending on other heroes, so we'll see. S tier so far. Blood Mage. Blood Mage is such a fun hero, one of my favorite heroes in the game. The problem with Blood Mage is that he is so specialized. He is not a good starter hero, so you will never see him in that role. but he excels at being supporting hero, supporting spellcaster, stealing mana from other heroes and units and feeding his own hero. Most notably, in the current Pala Rifle meta, he is an invaluable part of that strategy. With that being said, even though he is very powerful and very versatile, he does not creep super easy, as again, he is not a great starter hero. He also really can't be used to harass. I'm going to put him on a high-end A tier so far. Banish is amazing, probably the most versatile spell in the game. You can use it offensively or defensively. Siphon is so good. Flame Strike is great, but also telegraphed and not useful, especially late game where magic immune units start to make their appearance, and Phoenix is amazing. But even though all of his skills have a lot of use, I still feel because of his lack of strength early game that he deserves to be at the top of A tier and not in the highly coveted S tier category. Padam is trash. I'm sorry, but she just is. You know it, I know it. She is simply not good. The problem with highly specialized heroes is that if you can only use a hero in a certain niche, then outside of that niche, hero is just useless. Padam has no attacking summons, she cannot be used to creep easily, she cannot be used to harass your opponent easily. You're only doing mass range with her, and you're only doing it in one specific matchup, which is Night Elf Mirror. And in Night Elf Mirror, she is actually really strong. Searing Arrow has been buffed, so on level 3 she does absolute truck tons of auto attack damage, but the problem is, when are you going to reach that point? True Shot Aura, great, don't get me wrong, especially for Night Elves, but the problem is that she doesn't have a lot to offer other than just pure auto attack damage, either by increasing the auto attack damage of your units or by increasing her own auto attack damage. Her third spell, the Owl, is problematic because it offers no combat utility. Giving your heroes skills and abilities that have zero use combat is problematic because it limits their usefulness. And this is a problem with the Owl. The Owl itself is great, it's an invulnerable scout unit that feeds information to you, but the problem is it doesn't help you early game. It doesn't help you creep, it doesn't help you do damage. Owl doesn't get a lot of use. It's a skill that should be redesigned, but unfortunately, in its current state, it doesn't offer a lot to the game. Starfall, incredibly powerful, one of my favorite skills in the entire game, but again, because Padam as a hero is so specialized, you rarely see her. She's just not played as often in 1 vs 1, so you will rarely see Starfall to begin with. Also, even though it's powerful, it's also cancelable, so it can be easily punished if attempted. Unfortunately, even though I like the concept behind Priestess of the Moon, at the moment, unless something is changed drastically, she remains, in my opinion, the worst hero in the game. Again, as I prefaced before, this is 1 vs 1 oriented rating. In team games, especially 3 vs 3, 4 vs 4, etc., Padam can be surprisingly powerful. If you can position your Padam behind a lot of units and then do Starfall and other units cannot reach to cancel, that can be really powerful. True Shot Aura also affecting huge radius of friendly troops as well. In 1 vs 1, however, she remains dead last on this tier list. Moving on with Dark Ranger in what I feel is our first B category hero on this list. Dark Ranger is okay. Like all Tavern heroes, there are certain cases in which you might pick Dark Ranger, but at most you will probably go with other heroes that Undead have at their disposal. Still, Dark Ranger offers lots of utility and she is quite useful in many cases. Silence is great, so if you're selecting Dark Ranger as a third hero and starting off with Silence, you can immediately have lots of impact. Dark Arrow can be great in certain matchups, for example Undead versus Orc. If Orc player decides to go Headhunters, then this is a very great counter to that strategy. It's easy to snowball skeletons very quickly, and in combination with a Lich that can eat those skeletons to cast Novas, it can be incredibly powerful. Life Drain, not the best spell out there, it is useful, but you would much rather have Silence and Dark Arrow and then just heal your Dark Ranger with a coil instead of just having her sit there and do nothing. Charm, great spell, extremely powerful, very quick cooldown, you're able to steal lots of enemy units, so it can definitely decide the game, but you will rarely reach that point in 1 vs 1. Overall, Dark Ranger, jack of all trades, master of none, I think she's perfectly fine sitting here as our B tier hero in this tier list. Demon Hunter, easy S tier. What else can I say? Demon Hunter is one of the strongest heroes in the game, always has been, always will be. Super oppressive with the mana burn, and mana is super powerful and valuable in this game, so if you deprive enemy heroes of mana, then that's powerful just by itself. At level 3, burning 150 mana from your opponents is so stupid strong. Not to mention evasion that really keeps Demon Hunter alive, immolation that has went through several iterations of power, where we're finally in a place where immolation is quite powerful, but not too powerful. Finally, metamorphosis, also known as Superman. What else can I say? 500 extra HP, ranged, splash, chaos damage attack. I mean, an ability that can just decide the game by itself. There's really not much else to say about Demon Hunter. He is one of the best heroes in the game, and very much deserving of our coveted S tier status. Similarly, we have Death Knight. Death Knight is absolutely invaluable for undead. Without that unholy aura, without the coil, undead would be crippled. He is so valuable that in 90% of the time he is also the first pick for most undead players. The biggest exception of that is right now the current undead versus human meta, where players like Happy opt in for Lich instead, but other than that, Death Knight remains the best starter hero for most undead players. Death Coil, amazing, healing your own units but also punishing enemy units with up to 300 HP of damage. Unholy Aura, the second best aura in the entire game. Tons of movement speed, tons of HP regen. Death Pact, able to completely heal yourself by consuming your own troops. And finally, Animate Dead. Animate Dead is probably the only weak spell in the Death Knight's pantheon. Unfortunately, it's just not very good, even with some buffs that it has received. But I will say 3 great spells out of 4 is not too bad. Overall, Death Knight is the absolute lifeblood of the undead army, providing undead units with much needed move speed, health regen, and just heal in general. Firelord, one of the most fun and most amusing heroes in the game. Firelord is great at what he does, and what he does is relentless pressure. Pressure play once you hit tier 2 or tier 3. Firelord is rarely a first hero, but he can be used as a first hero on some occasions. His lava spawn can be incredibly powerful because they can essentially clone themselves, and you can have a snowball army very quickly, which allows him to be a good beginner hero as well, with a powerful summon that can creep easily. Soulburn is a very versatile spell that just absolutely punishes enemy units and spellcasters, heroes in particular, with a damage debuff and also a silence as well. Incinerate is a great addition to auto attack that can very quickly ramp up tons and tons of damage. Firelord is very unique. He's a ranged hero with a very strong auto attack that can summon other units, but also has disable as well. Overall, just has a very broad toolbox for many different scenarios that you can face. And finally, we have Volcano, which is a very powerful spell that you can use to completely demolish enemies' base, but the problem is, with all other channeling spells, it can be easily cancelled. People select Firelord to go in all-in strategies and then try to win there on the spot. So unfortunately, even though Firelord is quite powerful, he does tend to fall off late game if you do not win, which is why I'm going to put him in sort of a middle to bottom of A tier. I have seen people like Happy use Firelord as sort of a third hero against Pele Rifle, where with Soulburn he's actually been a bit successful in trying to stop that strategy. So this is yet another use for this very versatile hero. Farseer. Farseer is my favorite hero in the game, period. I'm an Orc stan, Orc fanboy, I don't care. I just love Farseer. With that being said, I think he's definitely deserving of an S tier, but probably not the best hero in this category. Feral Spirit is great, amazing for scouting, for harass, for creeping. It's a great summon skill. Chain Lightning, one of the best AoE spells in the game. The problem with Farseer is that he is extremely powerful early game, but starts to fall off significantly later game. There are 2 main reasons for that. First of all is we are relying on summons, and summons later game can be easily dispelled. Secondly, just like with Priestess of the Moon, Giving your hero a utility skill that cannot be used in combat is a problematic game design because this really limits the late game power of a hero in question. I'm of course talking about Farsight. Don't get me wrong, Farsight is an incredibly powerful spell. An on-demand reveal in an RTS game is powerful, but is it more powerful than the immediate effect that Feral Spirit and Chain Lightning have? Not really. You're never going to train Farseer and start with Farsight because then you're losing tremendous damage potential that the other two spells have. So having one spell that is never used is problematic. Also, his ultimate, Earthquake, is yet another channeled ability that can be punished. However, it's very good at destroying enemy buildings. Overall, Farseer is one of the best and strongest heroes in the game. He can be extremely punishing with some strats like, for example, Mass Headhunters. However, he is going to fall off later game, unfortunately. Keeper of the Grove has had quite a journey throughout the Warcraft 3 meta. From being one of the best heroes in the game a couple of years ago when the new changes were introduced, to a hero that has been a little bit mediocre lately. Keeper of the Grove is powerful in certain respect. For example, Entangle, extremely powerful disable. You can really punish enemy units early game as every Entangle is most likely a kill. Treants are pretty good, but not the best summon out there. The problem begins with Thorn's Aura. Thorn's Aura is very situational. It can be extremely powerful, for example, in Night Elf Mirror, when bears start to make appearance, or in Orc versus Night Elf, but in some other matchups, like for example, Undead versus Night Elf, it's entirely useless. Also, like any other summons, Treants are going to fall off quickly once this spell becomes available. Finally, we have Tranquility, extremely powerful ultimate that can be used both in combat and outside of combat. Overall, I think that Keeper of the Grove is in a good place right now, but not one of the best heroes out there, certainly not the best Night Elf hero at the moment. So I'm going to put him at the top of B tier. Lich, easy S tier, no question about it, no question at all. Now the question is, where exactly in our S tier does our Lich belong? I think this placement is fair. Lich is sometimes used by Undead as a first hero in Undead vs Human matchup. In most other matchups, he is probably the second hero to come out, but regardless of that, don't be fooled. Second or third hero, Lich always makes an immediate impact, and leveling the Lich becomes a priority for Undead players later on, because he's just that good. First Nova is stupid crazy. It's also the only AoE skill, to my knowledge, that does not have a damage cap. So basically, the only damage limiter of Frost Nova is how many units there are in the area of effect. So it can be incredibly powerful against pockets of units clustered together, especially air units. Frost Armor, very situational but very powerful, especially against powerful melee attackers like Blade Master. Frost Armor can completely neuter a Blade Master, for example, so that's also a powerful spell. Then we have Dark Ritual, which keeps feeding Lich with pretty much unlimited mana, especially on level 2 of the spell and above. And finally, Death and Decay. Because it deals percentage of damage, it is guaranteed to kill every building if it suffers full duration. So you can easily kill a human castle with it, even if it has a masonry upgrade, it does not matter. Very powerful, again also a channeled ultimate, but unlike other channeled ultimates, this one is probably the best of the bunch. Lich is one of the strongest heroes in the game, no question about it. Easily top 3, top 4 hero in the game. Mountain King. Oh, this is interesting. This is probably low S tier, high A tier. But let's talk about Mountain King. Mountain King is such a powerful hero, which has received certain buffs throughout the years to make him as powerful as he is right now. Stormbolt is so punishing, the best single target spell in the entire game. Bash is so great. Clap, especially level 3 Clap, can absolutely devastate enemy units. And Avatar, Magic Immunity, 500 HP, just so powerful. I guess the only downside to Mountain King is lack of range, and he is also a little bit slow, often used as a second hero, but in certain matchups and in certain maps he can be used as a first hero as well. Because he's such a strong strength hero, he often lacks mana, so in combination with Archmage's powerful Brilliance aura or Blood Mage's Siphon mana, he becomes almost unstoppable. Overall, S tier, no doubt about that. I'm going to talk about Archmage a little bit later, probably near the end of the video. I'm gonna put him at the very end, and you're gonna see why a little bit later. Naga. It's a pretty strong hero, but very situational, so I'm going to put her either in high-end B tier or maybe low-end A tier. I think this is fair. Naga is a very common second choice hero for all races. She comes out incredibly strong with Frost Arrow that can be really crippling to enemy heroes. You can focus them down and kill them while they're slowed. Fork Lightning, even though it only damages 3 units at a time, is a incredibly powerful AoE attack. The problem is with other 2 spells that are very rarely used. We have Mana Shield that is good at keeping her alive, but you really want to use that mana for other things like Fork Lightning and Cold Arrow. And finally we have Tornado. You will rarely see Naga level 6, but if you do, Tornado is powerful, but you know, again, it's just another channeled ultimate ability. So Naga is a very powerful support hero, but overall, other than 2 spells that she does have, which are really good, she doesn't provide much else, and she does fall off later in the game as a result of that. So she's going to be either low-end A tier or high-end B tier. In fact, I think I'm going to put her here. Maybe I will keep her in A tier just because of how commonly played she is. SH. SH is S tier hero, no doubt about that. In fact, I consider SH to be one of the most powerful heroes in the game. And I think I'm going to move my Blade Master here. I think this is what I'm gonna do. SH is the best support hero in the entire game. You will almost never start the game with SH, but man is he good in almost any situation. First, there is the heal wave, which is just so amazing for the orc, especially in combination with Spirit Link. You cast heal wave and bam, suddenly they're all healed up. Then you have Hex, one of the best disables in the entire game. Not only can you use it offensively, not only can you use it on heroes, you can also use it to creep lane. It's just such a good spell. Then you also have Serpents. Serpents are so powerful, especially in Orc vs Night Elf, where they absolutely punish Dryads, Huntresses, and other heroes that are unarmored or lightly armored. And finally, Big Bad Voodoo is honestly quite useless in 1 vs 1, but absolutely amazing in team games and one of the strongest abilities in team games there is. But even without Big Bad Voodoo, just his 3 spells alone are so powerful that I think he deserves to be on this spot. Oh, I don't know where to put Paladin. Probably low and A tier. I think this is a fair place for him to be. Probably the second best support hero in the game, right after SH. Holy Light is great. The problem with Holy Light is, of course, it only heals 1 unit. However, against undead, he turns into an offensive juggernaut because Holy Light, unlike Death Coil, hits instantly and can be extremely punishing against undead. Divine Shield, pretty great, but you will likely not pick this over his other abilities. Devotion Aura has received a couple of buffs throughout the years. It has always been a powerful aura, but now it's definitely one of the best in the game, providing so much survivability to your entire army. And then finally, Resurrection. If you are in the spot where you are losing that many units, Resurrection can be really powerful, but ideally you want to keep them alive and prevent that from happening in the first place. The only reason you will play Paladin first is because you're going for Pala Rifle strategy, which is proven to be one of the most powerful strategies at the current meta right now, so this definitely elevates Paladin to a well-deserved A tier. But other than Pala Rifle, Paladin is usually relegated to being a 3rd hero that comes out in tier 3 late game for humans. So I think end of tier A is justified. And now, because I see that I have overpopulated the air tier a little bit, I feel I'm going to downgrade these heroes just a tad bit. I think this is accurate. I can't have every single hero be S or A tier, so I think this arrangement makes more sense. Panda. Ooh, this is so hard. Panda is an incredibly powerful hero, But just like with every other hero that you train from the tavern, Panda is also very situational. Great thing about Panda is that he scales remarkably well. He starts off a little bit slow and weak, but as he gains more levels, he becomes more and more powerful. That is why Panda is such a powerful hero. The problem is that when he does start, you're probably not going to pick him immediately. It's going to be probably your second or third hero, just because he doesn't provide too much utility early game. He doesn't creep well, he doesn't harass well, so he ends up being sort of a support hero. Fire Breath is a great AoE spell, especially at level 3, really punishing not just to enemy units but also buildings as well. Drunken Haze with Fire Breath is an amazing combination, and Drunken Brawler also provides him with a lot of pretty great auto attack and evasion as well. Finally, Storm, Earth and Fire is one of the most powerful ultimates in the game, so I think this is just the right spot for Pandaren Warrior. Pitlord! Don't get me wrong, Pitlord is a very powerful hero, but like any other Tavern hero, he is also extremely situational. And even as an undead hero, you will 9 times out of 10 pick the Dark Ranger first. Pitlord is the biggest tank in the game, having, I believe, the most HP out of any hero, which does make him pretty good solid choice for second and third heroes, because even on level 1, he has a tons of HP and he is hard to deal with. Howl is an amazing AoE disable, and Cleave, with the right items, can be extremely powerful. If you find good items like Gloves of Haste, Claws, and then you put Cleave level 2, level 3, you can quickly demolish the entire enemy army with it. Rain of Fire, unfortunately, not super useful, but it does have its use. Doom, incredibly powerful. Doomguard is amazing, but you will likely not reach that stage with the Pitlord anyway. To be honest, I struggle where to put this Pitlord, because everything that I just said is extremely powerful, but because of how situational he is and how little he is actually played, I'm not sure if I can justify a higher tier than this. I think I will put Pitlord at the bottom of tier B. I think this is okay. He is incredibly powerful, but in certain situations. So I feel that because of the rarity of play that we see him in 1 vs 1, I think that this place is justified. TC! Here we are. TC is a top 5 hero. Simple as that. I don't think that there is any way anyone could say otherwise. He is slow to start, but out of all heroes, TC probably gets the most powerful with levels. Shockwave level 3 is absolutely devastating. Huge AoE Shockwave that damages units and buildings especially. Stomp, such a powerful disable. Endurance Aura, amazing. And Reincarnation, where he gets full HP and mana back, absolutely amazing. TC is one of the most powerful heroes in the game, often relegated to a support role, but just like Lich for Undead, even though you probably train TC second or third, leveling TC becomes a priority once he does come out, just because of how powerful he actually is. So I think this placement is just right. Tinker? I'm sorry Tinker bro, but when talking about specialized heroes, he is one of the most specialized out there. Again, powerful in some cases, but in my opinion, he is just not powerful enough to warrant being anywhere other than C tier. He's better than Podom. We can rename D tier as Podom essentially, because spoiler alert, she's going to be the only hero on this tier. Tinker can be powerful. He has been known to be played, for example, by Night Elves like a third hero, especially in the mass talent strategy that used to dominate the matchup. Nowadays, he doesn't get a lot of use. Pocket Factory can be powerful to creep, but you will never start with level 1 Tinker to begin with, so he's often used as a third hero, and then you can pick Pocket Factory then. Rockets can be really powerful against mass air. I believe it's the only mass AoE stun that affects air units other than perhaps Status Ward, so that can be really powerful in certain matchups too. His third ability just buffs other abilities, so that's like, you know, okay, whatever, sure. And finally, his ultimate is really powerful, basically makes him into a siege tank, tons of damage against enemy buildings, and also makes him mechanical, which makes him immune to pretty much most offensive spells. Very powerful, but when is the last time you actually seen it? I can't personally recall, so I think top of C tier is just right. Dreadlord. I think A tier is right. Dreadlord, one of my favorite heroes. Every time I see Dreadlord play in a professional matchup, I get so excited because he is so fun to watch and play. Sleep, one of my favorite skills. Such a powerful and smart disable, perfect for isolating creeps so that you can creep easily, or you can disable enemy heroes and units and then you can surround them and kill them. Carrion Swarm, amazing AoE, especially on level 3. Dreadlord is often used as a counter to enemy air units, especially in undead versus human matchup, where human player is going to mass copters to combat destroyers. You can take Dreadlord, and with level 3 Carrion Swarm, you can absolutely punish mass flying machines. Vamp Aura, very powerful in certain cases, like for example if you're going with Frenzy Ghouls, but nowadays that strategy doesn't really see a lot of play, opting for Sleep and Carrion Swarm instead. Finally we have Infernal, which is one of the best ultimates in the entire game, and probably my favorite ultimate too. Infernal easily wins the fights and easily wins the games if you get to that point, but until then, Dreadlord is just overall such a powerful, such a useful hero. But because Death Knight and Lich is a more powerful combination and more meta, with a more immediate effect for an undead army, we don't often see Dreadlord played, which in my opinion is a bit of a shame. But I think right here in the A category is very much justified for Dreadlord. I might in fact even bump him up a little bit right here, because I feel he is more powerful than Blood Mage and the Paladin. Ooh, Crypt Lord on the other hand, I'm not sure of. I think I'm going to put Crypt Lord somewhere in the middle, right about here. I'm gonna put Crypt Lord at the top of tier B. The reason behind it is because he is extremely powerful, although probably the hero with the least amount of use in the undead army. The things that Crypt Lord does well, he excels in. So he can be often used in undead versus human matchup, where he can be used as a starting hero. Impale is an incredibly powerful mass AoE stun that can really offer a lot of utility. You can use it either to damage enemy units, or you can use it to surround them and kill them. Beetles are amazing. With the buff that they received a few years back, where you now spawn 2 beetles instead of 1, it's a permanent summoned unit, which you can spawn up to 6 of. In combination with Rod of Necromancy, you can easily clear very powerful creep camps that would otherwise be extremely hard to take without that ability. Spite Carapace turns Crypt Lord into an absolute tank that is incredibly hard to dispose of. And finally, the ultimate, the Locust Swarm, is just amazing. I think the top of the B tier is a very fair assessment of Crypt Lord, because he is not often played of his a bit more specialized nature, but things that the Crypt Lord does, like creeping, like mass disable, he is quite exceptional in that regard. Now we have the Warden. I will put Warden right here as the second most powerful hero in the A tier. Warden, along with Dreadlord, is one of my favorite heroes to watch because she is so fun. She is an absolute spell damage machine. But the problem with that is, just like Blademaster is so reliant on good items for auto attack, Warden is so reliant on good items for her spell damage. So if she doesn't creep well, if she doesn't get a lot of levels, if she doesn't get a lot of mana items, she is just not very good. Because of her reliance, I am putting her at the top end of A tier. But once she does get going and once she becomes powerful, she can easily decimate entire armies all by herself, and is probably the only hero capable of such power. Fan of Knives can be absolutely devastating both for blinking into worker lines and killing all the workers, or against armies during combat. Shadow Strike, extremely powerful for single target. Blink allows Warden almost unlimited mobility across the map at level 2 and above. And finally, Avatar of Vengeance is such a powerful spell. If used properly, you can punish enemies so hard with it if you get to that point. High level Warden is one of the scariest things in Warcraft 3, but you have to level her really hard and you have to have really good items for her to shine. If you do, she is extremely powerful. But because of these conditionals, I am putting her at the top end of A tier. And finally, I have left Archmage dead last, just for a little bit suspense, because he is the best hero in the game. Just like that, Archmage is top of S tier, the most busted, most broken hero in the game, in my opinion. So let's dissect the Archmage. First of all, Water Elemental is such a busted summon. I believe the level 3 used to have over 900 HP. Summon with a heavy armor, but also a very high ranged piercing attack. Amazing at creeping, amazing at harassing and punishing your opponents. If you're an orc player like me, then you know exactly what it means to get level 3 Archmage with level 2 Water Elementals into your base and a couple of footies. You know that your burrows are about to die. Then we have Brilliance Aura, the strongest aura in the game. Brilliance Aura is so busted, so much mana regen. And at level 2 and above, Human Army never loses mana, which in combination with powerful spellcasters like Priests and Sorcerers, it means that your army is perma-slowed. It means that their army is healing permanently all the time. The longer you stay in combat against a human army, the worse it gets for you. Brilliance Aura is absolutely busted. In a game where mana equals power, mass mana regen aura is obviously extremely powerful. But unlike some heroes like Farseer that tend to fall off after a while because of their summoned ability, if Archmage faces this spell, he can simply respec into Blizzard. So not only does he have the most powerful aura in the game, the most powerful summon in the game, he also has an AoE spell. An AoE spell that he can respec into if he faces Mass Dispel. I do not think that Blizzard is the best AoE spell in the game. That would be pretty weird to have all the best spells, right? But it's still very powerful. So just the fact that Archmage can respec into Mass AoE spell if he faces Dispel from the opponent is pretty busted by itself. And now we get to the biggest busted part of it all. So take the best aura, take the best summon, take AoE spells, and then slap Mass Teleport on top of it. If you reach Mass Teleport, Archmage provides his army an almost unlimited teleportation across the map. Come on now. Let's be honest here. Like, really? That is stupidly powerful. Of course, it doesn't have an immediate combat effect, but if you have a powerful army, you can use this in so many ways. All you have to do is build a couple of farms along the map, or you can even teleport on units like militia. You can teleport next to a militia standing, for example, next to the opponent's expansion. You teleport, you kill the opponent's expansion, and then as soon as your opponent comes, you TP back and you lose nothing. It's so stupid. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Archmage, in my opinion, easily the most powerful hero in the game, maybe even S+ if I were to make that kind of tier. But anyway, this has been my tier list. I think that I was quite fair in my assessment, maybe a bit more S tier heroes than I originally intended, but I truly believe that every single hero that I put in the S tier category is among the best. If I were to nitpick, I might potentially do something like this. Maybe I would do this. But yeah, this is my final rating. So anyway guys, that has been my complete tier list. Warcraft 3 is my favorite game of all time, so just geeking out about these topics is one of my favorite things to do. So if you think I didn't do some heroes justice, or maybe I overrated others, let me know down in the comments below. I would love to read them and reply. Also, if you found this entertaining in any way and you would like me to make more of these videos, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm a very small YouTuber, so every little bit really helps me a lot. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Fallen Messiah, and I'll see you in the next one.